Let's go back to Donald Trump. He obviously hosted Vladimir Putin in Alaska last week as he tries to bring an end to the war with Ukraine. And plenty of people were angry about it, particularly Democrats, mainstream media, and there were also protesters who took to the streets to share this message about the meeting.
We need to stand with Ukraine!
Trump thinks he can negotiate anything. He can't negotiate himself out of a paper bag.
They are our allies. Russia is our enemy. Let's not get it twisted.
This is just grandstanding for Donald Trump. He likes to look good and think he's doing something, but he's not doing anything. And meeting with Putin is, actually, I don't know who's worse in terms of making a deal and not actually adhering to it. So there's two guys in a room, neither of whom can be trusted or can trust each other.
James, it's pretty funny watching those reactions. I wonder if any of those protesters want to figure out a way to end the war.
I'd love to hear their thoughts, because I'm not entirely sure how you negotiate a peace if you're not speaking to the relevant parties involved in said wars. So, yeah, I'd like to know exactly what they plan to bring an end to the war. But one thing's for sure is that these people are absolute specialists in these cringe kind of displays of protest. I mean, every time I think they've done it, they outdo themselves in the next one and the next one and the next one. And it's all well and good to protest, and everyone has the right to do that. But you could at least direct it at the right person. It seems like more of the protests were directed at Trump, who is nominally on your side, than it was against Putin, who is ostensibly the rival power here. So I just thought the whole dynamic there was very, very peculiar.
Completely agree. Now let's talk about the Democrats. As we know, they are all over the place, and there's this bizarre trend on social media where Liberals are posting these model shot images of Gavin Newsom from high school and comparing them to images of JD Vance in high school. And I think it's absolutely backfiring. We know JD Vance's story is incredibly inspiring. Growing up in a working class family, had a mother that was battling with addiction, and JD Vance went on to serve in the Marines and become the second most powerful man in the United States. He's incredible. And Gavin Newsom, he's just absolutely destroying California. He's so desperate to be president in 2028. We'll see how that goes for him. But what do you make of this social media trend? I think it's backfiring. What are your thoughts? It seems a little bit desperate to me.
Yeah, I completely agree, but it's nice to see that Democrats have finally learned how to meme 10 years after the phenomenon firmly started. But the truth is that you're completely right. It's just drawing attention to these two men's stories, one of whom is much more impressive than the other. Now, Gavin Newsom isn't even particularly popular with his own party. As you mentioned, what's going on in California really is quite disastrous. Energy prices skyrocketing, out-migrations at all-time highs, homelessness is still a major problem. So Democrats do need a new leader, but they absolutely should not be looking in Gavin Newsom's direction. That is the last thing the party wants. And I dread to think what kind of character they'll be having as vice president if they do select a white male president like Newsom. We'll have to see.
Well, you've written about the Democrats. You've written that the return of the left centrists lack conviction and resolve. Completely agree. You said the Democrats promised a sober reset after Donald Trump's win. Instead, they're losing ground to a new wave of socialists. Of course, back in November, moderates promised this sober reset, a return to pragmatism, competence and electability, but they have since been out-organised and out-communicated, and it's clear that the centre isn't holding and the left is on the march. Now, it's interesting when you're looking at radicals, it doesn't really get any more radical than New York City Mayor candidate Zohran Mamdani. But he's now reportedly watering down some of his radicalism. He's obviously, been promising free buses, frozen rents, but he's walked back his previous claims to defund the police. And he's spent the last couple of weeks courting business leaders and carefully calibrating his position. So I suppose there are questions around whether Mamdani will try to move to the centre. Do you suspect that's what we're going to see?
This is absolutely what we're going to see. The context is that he is in a very crowded field, but it's a very uncompetitive field because his rivals, Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams, and Curtis Lewa, are all deeply flawed candidates, and that is benefiting Zohran Mamdani. The same anti-establishment energy that propelled Trump to the presidency could well be fueling Mamdani in the opposite direction. That is what's so interesting about this race. Now, do I think this pivot to the center is sincere? Well, a lot of people are arguing that there's actually some kind of wokeness in sheep's clothing, and I think there is a lot of evidence pointing to that. The separate question is exactly what he plans to do when he gets into office, and that is the million-dollar question. But what I would say is that there is a more than likely chance that he is going to be New York's next best mayor.
Yeah.
And until centrist and moderate Democrats get their act together and figure out a manifesto to actually challenge Mamdani, then these ideas will go completely unchallenged. And that's what's happening at the moment.
Absolutely. Newsroom editor at Unheard, James Billow, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.